Welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast, where we're going to take a look at the communities, the businesses, the attractions, and the people that make up Montcalm County. Here is your podcast host, Duane Weed.
Hello, and welcome to the Discover Montcalm podcast. My name is Duane. I'm the host and producer. And in episode 76, we're going to interview Steve Schofield. Steve is an adjunct professor. He works in the industry in IT, and we talked about a lot of things. And when I sat down to edit his, I went, wait a minute, there's two podcasts here. So this is the first part of the interview with Steve Schofield, where we're going to dive into the Montcalm Community College Tech Fest that was held in February of 2024, and kind of dive into what that was all about, what it went to put it on, and kind of the results that came from it, as well as learning a little bit from Steve about growing up in Greenville and Montcalm County. So I'm going to jump right now into the interview with Steve Schofield. Steve's been in the technology business since when?
1996.
Since 1996. Well, welcome to the podcast. Let's jump right into it. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Greenville, born and raised. My parents are from Greenville. My grandparents are from Greenville, so both sides of the family. So lifelong Montcalm County resident. I live in Greenville, lifelong, but been involved in Montcalm County for my whole life.
Your whole life. What are some things that you personally like best about the county and why?
It's home. I mean, my family's here. My kids are here. My kids were raised here. Mm-hmm. Soon to have a grandchild, so we're entering that season. But pretty much family, small town. I've had a chance to travel, and I've learned to appreciate this season of life where I'm around your family and your friends, and that's where the good Lord's called me. So
you can't argue with that one.
Nope.
At all. You're in the field of technology, cybersecurity type of thing, but you also teach out at Montcalm Community College. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences at the college and kind of what brought you there and what exactly are you teaching?
Yeah, I have some friends that, Lisa Lunn, she is the executive director of the foundation at Montcalm County, or the Montcalm Community College, and just knowing her, and they had an opening a couple years ago, the summer of 2022. They were about a week before, and they had a class, and her and Susan Hotto, who she's no longer there, but she was a dean for a long time at the college, said, hey, we need someone to teach a computer class. So I went in and interviewed, and I never did anything formal like that. I remember asking, hey, how will you grade them? I'm like, we're just going to come in and talk tech. I don't know that. So the college wrapped a bunch of people around me that really helped me along. But so it started with one class last year, and then I did one in the spring, and then I've kind of expanded a little bit. But helping them teach, I've said there's 3 seasons of life: learning, earning, and returning, and I'm in that season, I think, of returning, where I can return some of my knowledge. So it seemed to be a good fit.
Your experiences and my paths, we're kind of close in that we did our thing. We got brought into education.
Yep.
You through your way, mine came through 2020 after the pandemic, when the Career Center was looking for somebody to, teach a digital arts program. And that part of giving back, things that we've done we now are like, okay, I had basically the same question. How do I grade them?
Yeah. I mean, they asked me, as far as the material goes, I knew the material. I'd been the specific material, I had been in the industry for 15 years. So I knew it backwards and forwards. While it wasn't part of my day-to-day current role, it's something I did a lot of. So it was very easy to slide in, but it was all the other grading and the systems that went with it. So I spent a fair amount of time coming up to speed on that, but there were multitudes of individuals that were more than willing to help me, and they said they would help me, and I'm one to be persistent and ask questions, and they helped me through it.
I can mirror that. because I came from business and had done a little teaching at Ferris and Greenville High School, but never in, like creating a syllabus and creating that was something that was, I knew what they were, but, I'm supposed to do that? So the people that surround you are great. And I talk to my students about that. Surround yourself with people, network with people, learn. You will never stop learning. And that kind of brings me about one of the reasons why I asked you to come in here today was you and I had an opportunity to work on this thing at Montcalm Community College called the Tech Fest. What is the Tech Fest? And I know we just had it in February of 2024. It was the first annual. But give me a little story on how did that get started and how did Steve get involved with it?
Well, it really goes back to early 2022. There was a friend of mine who had taken there's a countywide leadership outreach program called Leadership Montcalm. And this is, for those who are familiar with it, it's definitely a program for people that are in public service or nonprofit or social service area. Well, I've worked in private industry, but I did a fair amount of faith-based Christian outreach in the Greenville area, and they suggested I take it. So in the 2022-2023 class, I joined it, and I believe it's 8 months. And when you get to the end of it, you have to present what I call the big idea. What is something you can do in Montcalm County that can make a difference to make it better? One of the examples was there was a veteran who has now works, if you go to the services in Stanton, they'll help you. If you're a veteran of our armed services, they can help you. And that started from there. Mine was, I didn't have any of the traditional stuff that people talked about, but the good Lord laid education and technology on my heart. So as I was teaching at the college, my idea was, how can we spark technology at the college? And Leadership Montcalm was kind of the catalyst to start the idea, but I started mentoring a student in Greenville who he actually participated in the cryptography station. Here's a young man who has a lot of talent, a lot of smarts. How can you highlight that and really kind of foster that? So that was kind of if you're building a fire, that was kind of the amber. And then ironically, in the fall of 2023, they asked me to be, the first thing you do in Leadership Montcalm is you tour the county. And I was the tour guide. They invited me, Michelle Nielsen from the college, she's the coordinator. She said, hey, come be the tour guide, which I don't really know I'm a tour guide, but I can come along. And when we're going around introducing ourselves, I said, my name's Steve Schofield, I work in technology, I'm a part-time adjunct. And Amy Zdanowski, who is the career advisor, looked at me, she says, you teach at the college, you're tech, we have to do something technology related at the college. And we got to discussing that whole day, and the idea of a tech day or something involved started in September of 2023. And we went back and forth, and my original goal was 3 to 5 students from the 7 high schools in Montcalm County and Belding, which I didn't even know about the Career Center or ISD. So it was really, can I get 30 to 50 students to the college to do something hands-on, self-paced, and if possible, created and led by a student. So that was kind of the genesis between mentoring this student who was technology related, and then Amy, I call it a divine appointment. Thanks, Pastor Harger, for that term. And really from there, we just had conversations, and we set a date, and Amy and I went and visited. So what you experienced, your class that came in and experienced, was that kind of story.
Yeah, because I remember you reached out to me because we had met briefly through leadership when you had come in.
Yep.
Somehow our paths, and you came back and said, can I speak to your class? I need some help maybe promoting it for next year. Can we get somebody in to take photos and video? And you and Amy came in the first time and kind of presented it to the class, which, one of the things I think is very important is that I let the class also kind of help lead where we're going with it. But I want to give them career experiences to, what they're going to work on when they go out. Even if they don't go into my field that I'm teaching, they're going to run into things that they're going to have to coordinate with people. They're going to have to talk to other people. They're going to have to get resources, etc. And we had that event, and my students were broken up into two different, teams. One was the video team, the other was the photography team. And it just so happened that my morning class, I had 4 second-year students. 2 of them took video, 2 of them took photo, and they had the first-year students as their team. And cameras loaded, batteries charged, SD cards managed so that they didn't fill up 5 minutes into taking pictures. And they went out and captured things, and they're in the process right now in February of 2024 of putting together some mock-ups, going through and figuring out what's the best sound bites that we got, what's the best photos that we got, so that next year we can help you earlier push out some stuff from the actual event. So when you reach out to schools, you'll have something to say, hey, this is what we got, and we've got people there. So it looked great. Did you have like a number one takeaway that you went, yes, or ooh?
The short answer is it met my expectation. And it really was, it was a discovery. It wasn't, my full-time job is find early, fix early, and it's okay to fail. And failure is really more of a learning. So in this particular case, my takeaway was the students were engaged. I looked, we had 3 tables in the middle, and hardly any students just like disconnected. They were on their phone. They were the 2.5 hours. We set it for 3 hours in the morning for the students, and then we had an evening. But really, it met I didn't really have any expectations, but I'll say it exceeded. So if a school brought 6 students, I said, you exceeded by 1. I said, really, there were times that when Amy and I were planning it that it was 3 to 5. Now, there's some of these classes or some of these schools have, 30, 40 students. Some have a couple hundred. But to really reach the technology centric student who may be thinking about it, and when those students got together in there, I really kind of just, picked up on the vibe that they were engaged, that they picked up a few things, and we had enough variety. And that's where I said half of the students that led of the 10 stations, half of them were, they would see somebody of their age, their generation, and there as an expertise. So it was just fun to sit back and just kind of observe.
It was nice watching the networking, and they weren't always networking with kids that they knew, because the other schools were coming in, and some of this coding and stuff is over my head. But I could just sit there and they're talking, well, here's what we did. Here's how I did it. And that's exactly what we do in business when we network.
Connect and subscribe to Discover Montcalm Podcast at discovermontcalmpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Discover Montcalm Podcast. To be featured in an upcoming show, contact Duane at 231-250-9624. Remember to subscribe at discovermontcalmpodcast.com.